In the last few years, we have seen many outlets in Singapore close. Why? What is the problem?
Well, the Singapore cost structure has actually evolved quite rapidly over the last couple of years. If you start looking at the malls today, a lot of the malls are impacted by the retail. So what happens when the retail get impacted? They all start to replace it with food. So which means that the supply of the food is coming through more and more. But what happens to the demand in the last few years? It's been very stable. We have not seen a growth as compared to the last decade. And so
are you saying that the market here is just saturated?
It is extremely saturated. It's not just saturated. Yeah. But there's never an ideal situation in business. Never try, you never know. So I think if you're going to start to tell people, don't go into this area because it's challenging. But there are still people who wants to try it out. And some succeed, some don't. But that's part and parcel of life.
What about the rental situation? A lot of business people I speak to say that it is a major challenge and something needs to be done to keep rents in control. What's your perspective on this, though?
There are interventions, and I think certain areas that you need the government regulatory framework. But in my humble opinion, I think this should be left to market forces.
Why?
Where do you intervene? How do you intervene? At what stage do you intervene? What is a fair intervention approach? Those are very, very challenging, difficult questions to answer. Unfair from the perspective of the retailers. But what about the developers? How do you manage that fairness for them?
To what extent do you think, considering market forces and what we have been seeing in the last few years, where a lot of retailers are closing shop, that eventually the landlords do need to do something in order to maintain some sort of equilibrium, achieve some sort of equilibrium anyway? Yeah.
That's right. So then the landlord have to do their part to attract and look at whether the rates are reasonable that they're trying to achieve. And if it's not reasonable, the market forces will correct that.
Considering that you've been internationalizing or attempting to in the last few years, and you have quite a number of outlets in the region, I understand over 200 altogether, if you include what you have in Singapore.
Right.
Is that right? Is it just a better bet to leave Singapore to do business these days?
Well, for a start, that's my conversation with my colleagues. Yeah, but my colleagues are very passionate that we are born here. We should continue to have a presence here. Yeah, I'm pretty much aligned with you that there are many parts or markets in the world that are much more easier and much more rewarding in the operations. Some are really at the beginning of phase of having Japanese food, not so common in the market, and so it's very easy because when you go in, you're the kind of flavor of the month. In the beginning, when we first started the whole Sakae concept in 1997 during the Asian financial crisis, we projected. You kind of have a sense like in this market, how many can you open, right? We were looking at opening maximum of 6. But at one point of time, we had almost 50 over. So to me, we have actually far surpassed what this market actually requires. So at 50, and in a 5 million population, we're at 50 shops. If we had been born in the United States, 100, 200 million people, easily the same amount of time, 1,000, 2,000 shops. And that's the difference when you have the kind of market size. Starbucks, McDonald's, KFC, Pizza Hut, they open shop, they close shop. I think this is just part and parcel of business, of enterprise journey and growth.